Hi guys, it's the Forgetful Scholar and let's chat about books. So this week was The Happy Ever After for the Villain, The Silenced Souls, and just the cutest. Okay, so this is a really good week. Anyway, so let's start off with the first one, which is going to be a continuation of the Hathaway story. So it's Lisa Kleypas, Tempt Me at Twilight, the Hathaways, book 3. Is that okay? Good. So this is Poppy's story, and Poppy is the third sister. It's Leo, whose story we haven't had yet. Amelia, who was the first story. Win, who was the second. And now it's Poppy. 5 stars. Next. No. So this is FM historical, and this is Happily Ever After for the Villain. And when I do those silly little titles, it's kind of what stood out to me in the book, like whether it's silly or unconsequential, but when I look at my bookshelf, that's kind of what pops in my brain. It's just how my brain works. So that's all. So this, I loved it. I really did. This one was a little different than the other ones because I felt like there's a little more depth to it than the other stories. Not that the other stories weren't great, but this one was just a little more interesting. Just the characters seemed to have a little bit more depth. They were a little more gray areas in certain situations, and the story even kind of pokes at it tongue-in-cheek wise. So it starts off with the 2 younger Hathaway sisters and their tutor slash chaperone, Catherine. I think her first name is Catherine Marks. We've seen her before. Her and Leo have a very combative relationship. They're staying in a hotel, the Hotel Rutledge. And the other half of this pairing for Poppy, I won't say hero because he calls himself a villain, would be Harry Rutledge, and he calls himself the villain. And I do have to admit, like, the start of the relationship, he did kind of do some messed up things, you know? I don't know where that came from, but he did do some kind of, like, it was pretty manipulative, and he knows he's manipulative and things like that. And it's interesting because when you're in his POV, like immediately with his isolation and him cutting himself off from other people, it's like, oh, he has some tragic backstory that I hope we learn about. And we do learn about it, so that's good. And yeah, it's really sad, so I'm like, okay. And also they're just, to me, there was like shades of Beauty and the Beast kind of going on. Like Harry is the Beast. He's isolated. He's cut himself off in his castle. You know, he has loyal but eccentric staff that do anything for him, including matchmaking. You know, Poppy's like Belle, where she's beautiful but brilliant also, and her brain is not what society wants. So that stops her from doing a good match. And I will say a little tiny bit of a spoiler, but you do find out about it the first like 5 paragraphs. Yeah. Because that's kind of how her and Harry meet. Anyway, so there's a bit of a love triangle, and the quote-unquote prince of this little triangle, if Poppy's the princess and Harry's the villain, the prince, in the situation, he kind of reminds me of Gaston. So let me be a little bit more clear without giving anything away. So I like this a lot more because there was a lot more depth to the characters. All of them weren't perfect, you know, and they all had flaws and things like that. And I really think this book was fantastic in showcasing it. Also, this book was fantastic in showing clues for what their personalities really are, regarding the prince and the villain. See, in the beginning, the villain, or Harry, you know, he's very considerate. He enjoys the youngest sister. They always call her Beatrix, I believe. She has all the animals, and you know, he doesn't think she's weird. Like, I mean, he probably thinks they're a little weird, but it's sort of in like a charming way. he doesn't like, oh, I don't want to associate myself with them because they're weird. You know what I mean? And the thing is, Beatrix has so many animals, and a hedgehog named Medusa, and the hedgehog likes Harry. The hedgehog liked Harry right away, and I enjoyed that little clue that yeah, Harry's not this evil monster because everyone acts like he is except Poppy, Beatrix, and his staff. I mean, even his staff are wary of him because they're not sure like how far he'd go, but they're super loyal to him for reasons. And you find out even his assistant, Jay Valentine, which I hope he gets his own story. I would love that. Had a really rough childhood, really abusive, rough childhood, and Harry hired him because of his loyalty. You know, but whatever reason Harry hired him, he took him out of a horrible situation, and Harry knew he was in a horrible situation. You know what I mean? So we didn't listen to the other employee situations, but you kind of got the sense that Harry didn't pick his employees because they are from privilege. He picked them because he probably even unconscious level has something very much in common with them. And Harry is a hotel owner, and also on top of that, he is a brilliant inventor that holds all these patents and things like that. So at one point, because they do marry early on in the book, and so for most, like 80-90% of the book, they're married and they're getting to know each other. So at one point, he's trying out a new fire escape system for his employees, and he comes back all disheveled and dirty and everything like that. And he explains, oh, he was testing out the ladder. And Poppy's like, why didn't you send Jay or something to do that? You could have gotten hurt. He's like, well, exactly. Someone could have gotten hurt, so I had to try it first. And he was still worried about his female employees with their long skirts and petticoats, how they would get down. And this is just him being himself. You know, I think since Poppy married him and in close quarters, she saw more of himself than he even realized he was letting her see. You know, because even his employees don't know how far Harry would go to get what he wants. And he is manipulative. He is. That is totally, and he even owns up to it in his POV to Poppy that he is. He is. And the quote-unquote prince, when he's courting her, he's not courting her openly in the beginning of the book. And even her, Cam and Amelia, they were not impressed by that. And honey, that is a red flag. Like, it doesn't matter who you are, what gender you are, what sexuality you are. If your significant other is treating you like a dirty little secret, leave, because you are worth so much more than that. And I was like, ooh, that's a red flag. So there's a lot of little red flags for the prince, you know, and I really appreciated Lisa Kleypas putting that in and just making it more complicated. Sort of like a fairy tale, but more realistic. And even though this is like a written book, a written romance novel, you know, the author wasn't afraid to kind of go there, you know? And even Poppy's not perfect. There's one point in the book where she kind of causes a fight because she's, what's the word? She's a very kind, considerate person, but in this moment she wasn't being considerate to her husband, to the point where like Leo, her brother, who couldn't stand Harry and is kind of angry that Harry's like in the fairy, well, not as angry as Leo gets, you know, that Harry manipulated a situation where he gets to marry Poppy. But even Leo was like, Poppy, you caused this fight, you know, you have to wake up, this is your fault. And it was really interesting that even the princess of the story could misstep and there was issues there, you know, and I did enjoy that. And I thought that was fantastic. And I liked how they made a point saying that Harry didn't change. It's just he's letting his guard down, you know. I did wish that Harry kind of shared his backstory with Poppy. I thought that would have been a little bit more way to connect them. I understand why they had the tutor Miss Marks do it, because like in the beginning book she's really against Harry. Like she's acting like Harry is this huge villain, and you don't know why, you know. And I think the author had Marks explain his childhood to kind of reason why she was like that. It didn't, for me, it didn't really justify how much she was against him. Like, it was kind of over the top. And later Harry shares with Poppy and everything like that even more, so that's wonderful. But I think with Miss Marks, she's a really interesting archetype, but with that archetype you need to see the POV, because she just comes off as shrew like outside of that. And I really hope, I think her and Leo's story is next. I really want to get her POV on things, because I want to like her. Like, I want to like her. But right now she's kind of this, she's so combative with the men, but not with Cam and Maripin. Like, she's so combative with I guess aristocratic white men, that I really want to find out why, you know? So I hope that's, oh, I'm sorry, the allergies are killing me. And there was like one allergy pill left this morning, and I dropped it, and it's gone. I have no idea where it is. I can't find it. Even like moved the rug to look for it. It's not there, so I don't know where it is. I'll probably find it once I like crush it with my slipper. But anyway, where was I? Oh yeah. So I'm looking forward to Miss Mark's story, because I need to see her POV, because right now she's not likable, and I want to like her. So, but this was fantastic. I absolutely loved it. I'm so happy I'm getting into the Hathaway sisters. I'm sorry, I like it so much better than the Wallflower stories. I'm sorry, but I do. And you catch up with kind of Maripin and Wynn and Cam and Amelia. And again, when they're in the story, they don't take over the story, but they do add to the story itself. So I enjoyed that. And I loved when Harry's in their estate and he's surrounded by the crazy Hathaways, and he's just like, oh, this is what family feels like. I was like, oh. I just love that. And meanwhile, the prince is very selfish and self-destructing, and only cares about himself. So like, his true personality came out too. You know what I mean? And I'm like, oh, Poppy, you dodged a bullet. So I really love this. 5 stars. I'm really enjoying it. I can't wait till the next one. It was fantastic. And yes, I said villain of the happy ending, happily ever after for the villain, because Harry calls himself a villain. And even into the end where it seems more almost like an inside joke, which is fine. But yeah, because, in the beginning, he's not the stereotypical hero. He's manipulative and he's cunning, and he, is kind of cutthroat in what he wants. So it was very interesting to see her do this kind of character. Well, I think she did it a long time ago with the gambler, right? The guy that owned the gambling house that was rivals with Jenner, right? So Harry's kind of more that characteristic a little bit, you know what I mean? But like kind of super emotionally stunted, and poor thing, So, sorry. Okay, loved it. 5 stars, great. Okay, so our next one, Head Over Tentacles: A Sucker for Love Mystery, Book 3 by K.L.Heirs. And yes, this is some Cthulhu shit, and I'm loving it. So this is The Silenced Souls, and this was 4 stars, and this is contemporary paranormal horror, celestial horror, Cthulhu, H.P. Lovecraft, I don't know, mystery? Yeah, there we go. Romantic mystery. So this follows Sloane from the first book, and Launch, or Azeroth the Lesser, the eldritch god of thieves and vengeance. I think so, vengeance. Yes. In the first book, they got together. In the second book, Ted ended up in Zion, where his story took place, and there was a whole mystery about how the silenced souls, which are people born without magic, stopped going to Zion, and Zion is the bridge between the living and the dead. And on that book, they didn't really, like, you saw that the silent souls were freed, but you didn't see how. So I was really happy that this book took that up and you saw it. And again, for this being like celestial horror, whatever, It is so much fun. It was a blast. Um, I did give 4 stars just because, again, the tentacle sex not really my thing. But the characters in the story, even the mystery around it, is so fantastic that I can't stop reading these books. And it's just Launch is hilarious. Like, he had me pretty much laughing the whole book. So I did really enjoy it. Um, they go on. Their case is to find Ted, but the cat sent Ted to Zion. So okay, so that kind of led them to the fact that people without magic are being kidnapped and their souls aren't being released. So they're trying to figure out what's going on. And of course, it's an end of the world kind of situation, all hands on deck. And what I loved, absolutely loved, is Launch's sister and mom come to visit because like Launch is getting married, because in the first book and the epilogue they got engaged. So his mom and sister are so excited for him, and like for Elder Gods, they are adorable. They are so cute. There was some instances where a couple of side characters popped up, and I was like, oh, okay, this feels like a lead into another, like a next book, and it is. So, cool. I'm gonna read it. That's gonna be fun. Cool. I don't mind those. Like when there's side characters pop up out of nowhere and it's obviously a lead into the next book. That's fine. I don't like when side characters take over, and that did not happen. So it's from Sloane's point of view the whole time, which is good because I have no idea how they, the author, would do Launch's point of view, because he is so like chaotic and like funny. He kind of like sort of like imagine a bunch of kids just on the biggest sugar high on Halloween, times that by like 50, and that's kind of Launch's personality. Mischievous, fun, hyper, all over the place, loves Hell's Kitchen and Gordon Ramsay like obsessively. It's just a lot of fun. So they find out what's silencing the souls. And I do enjoy that even though Launch is a god, there are threats that could hurt him. You know what I mean? It's not like he's this super untouchable thing. He gets hurt. Not seriously, but he gets hurt. And again, there's talk about the Kindress and things like that. And I wonder if Sloane is the Kindress, which would be interesting. I kind of hope so. That would be pretty fucking cool. So the Kindress is the first being, Azeroth, the Great Azeroth, Launch's grandfather, created and died, and from there the stars were born. And Sloane has like his starlight powers are really impressive. And so many times when he fights the bad guys, they're like, no, that's impossible. And I liked how one of the main bad guys in this wasn't actually a main bad guy, but there still was like a really cool epic fight. The epic fights are really cool in this. And the fight was pretty interesting, but Sloane can see and hear that something's not right. And I don't want to give too much away because this is such a fun series. And if tentacle sex is not your thing, girl, hey, me too. Just skim it, because like the story and the characters are worth it. I think, at least. I think it's worth it. And I really hope, and Alexander is one of the bad guys in the beginning that Sloane fights and realizes something is not as it seems. I really hope they get a story. Like Alexander and Rhoda, I really hope they get a story, because I am hella curious about that. Hella curious. So that was that one. And then this one, the last one, is just the cutest. So The Dragon Next Door, Holly Day, and this is a new author that we read last week. She did the Alien romance one. And this one is a novella. It's 5 stars because it's so darling. It is an MM contemporary romance. And it is not paranormal. He's not actually a dragon. It's about Adrian and Lorcan. Adrian just kind of calls him internally a dragon because when he's moving in, he looked like he was breathing fire, and Adrian just kind of assigns a mythical beast to people he knows. And Adrian is just the cutest, hyper little bunny, and he just wants to take care of Lorcan. He wants to help him out. He's such a giving, sweet person. And Lorcan is this big, burly, tough guy, like on the cover. And I did, and this is 5 stars, and I did think it was really well done how, like, even though Lorcan is this big, tough kind of looking guy, his ex, who looks the opposite of him, was really toxic towards him. And I like that they did that, because that happens. Unfortunately, it happens. And Adrian at one point is like, how could you live with that toxicity all the time? Oh my God. Right to the ex's face, like, right in front of the ex, about the ex. It was great. Adrian is the cutest. And I really like the story. And of course it's a novella, so I can't really say much to give it away. It's basically, there's no mystery to it. It's like an everyday kind of meet cute kind of situation. And it was very sweet, very cute. I mean, give it a try. I'm really liking this writer. I wish this was longer. That's the only thing I would change about this, that I want more of it. So that's really great, right? So that's everything. I do have to say, I might not be able to post next week because my grandmother's having her 90th birthday. And I have family coming in. We're all safe, don't worry. And I don't know how much reading I'll get done between that and work. So we'll see. I'll try to do something. We'll see. Anyway, I don't want to, but it's time for me to get back to the real world. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you later. Bye.